So today, I was doing counseling. We're here at the Vinoy. It's very beautiful, and you all can only see me and hear me. And I'm ready to give my recommendation for a gal. And to protect her privacy, things may be altered or censored or obscured to protect the identity of the innocent. But we have an awesome view out here, out in the pier. Um, And last night I was with my students. That was recorded live for 2.5 hours of talking. So there's a lot of new students joining and trying to get a feel of how I counsel and teach my students. So, you guys gonna get a good mixture of everything. 84,000 teachings in the richness of Buddhism, and now meeting one of the monks to carry it out in such a way that everyone can understand and be at peace. So given said that, with permission to record, I'm ready to give my interpretations for you, um, which is phew, uh, because usually I like to give people some answers after such sessions, so that they don't go home ambivalent, ambiguous about, does he like me first and foremost? Does he want to meet with me again? Um, did I scare him off or something like that? I've been known to fix people and families in a matter of days. Actually, in a matter of days, I was able to bring family to peace, because it's that history that keeps them from just the not knowing. It's the not knowing and not secure in the knowledge of what transpired and what is the truth of it. How do we make sense of all of this nonsense that happened to me, which is to you, and a tornado goes through our head, not knowing the answer of why this life is so rough. And why did God do this to me? We blame a lot. We just don't have answers. Why do other people have it good and we don't? And when I say we, that also applies to me. It's the karma that we are experiencing. So first, I'd like to explain to you about the workings of karma. Karma says, and hopefully you have an open mind, or you've read on karma before, or read up on karma before. But I find karma a very it's a good explanation, easy and good pill to swallow. And what I mean by having an open mind is to be aware of the lawyer in our head that will object. Because there's always that lawyer in our head that try to object new information or new explanation or new theories that come in. And that lawyer doesn't serve us well, because that lawyer did not go to law school, did not graduate law school, is not board certified. And everyone's got that lawyer, including myself, except, I was trained at the second DCA, and I've worked with lawyers for 19 years and judges, and so I do know how one should be a lawyer and when to dismiss a bad lawyer when I see one. So the laws on karma is that we suffer today as a direct result of what we did in our past life and or in this lifetime. I mean, the things that we've done in this lifetime we know. But it's what we did in our past life that carries on over this life. That's like, great. That's great. So in your past life, you could have possibly committed atrocious act to someone that may have caused them psychological suffering. So therefore, in this lifetime, it kind of came back equivalent or even more greater in its intensity and depth, which is not fair, because we don't really remember what we did in our past life. Like, who does? You know what I mean? There are scientific proof, that some children do in fact remember their past life and how they were killed by the University of Virginia, Department of Perceptual Studies, in the psychiatric department. Dr. Stevenson is one of the authors. 50 years of research. They study rebirth. Right. Sometimes this is why I like to record this, because then if it wasn't recorded in front of the whole world, people were like, yeah, you're just making this stuff up. There's no proof. This is ridiculous. But there is. There is. You know, like children have been killed. As young as they could start speaking, they have told researchers, this is how I was killed. You see the scar in my head? Yeah, this guy hit me right here in my head, and he buried me right over there, and I can tell you where he lives. And researchers were like, okay, well, have at it. And they've led researchers to the burial site where they have excavated and found bones consistent of that age that the child described, and the indents, forensic evidence, blunt trauma force, and have led researchers to where the kid was killed and who killed the kid. And the guy's like, I don't know this kid. But in record numbers, 50 years of research. And, you know, University of Virginia is behind it. You know, so to the American crowd, I need to cite that because American crowds always want to look for evidence. You know, explanation from the East, but where is the evidence from the West? That's how we get close to the truth, if not the truth itself, or a viable scientific explanation of, I understand, and I can be at peace with this explanation. Okay, so again, we suffer today as a direct result of what we did in our past life, or even multiple previous lives. Okay. So therefore, here we are today. So based upon what you told me about your dad and your mom, and you see the generational trauma too, the generational genetic passing down of all of this. Very intricate too, with genes and genetics. And at those times, people didn't know about genes. So if they're going to continue to reproduce. What makes your story and my story similar is on my paternal side of the father also has mental health issues, schizophrenia, bipolar depression, and alcoholism. Plagued on the paternal side. And only my dad's brother and my father came out okay, and the rest of the other, like 7 siblings, they were done. They were fried. They are still fried. They're fried with master's degrees. They're fried with 2 master's degrees behind their belt. Plagued with mental illness. So I made it my mission to study psychology, which in the entire paternal side of the family are doctors, lawyers, dentists, and I'm the only one that wants to be a psychologist. And so it's like, so that's great. You know, we don't make a lot of money. I'm like, I'm not in it for the money, you know. So we don't get to choose our parents. That's also not fair. And life is all about responsibility also. You know, what they did to you is horrible, horrific. What they did to me is horrific. Right? I find it comforting, the workings of karma. Very comforting to accept that fact. My questions were designed to rule out either their karma is light or heavy. And because both of them, and you answered that they did not express a lot of generosity or charity, it wasn't enough for the workings of karma to balance out, to alleviate their suffering. And this was said last night. One of my students says, what if we did something bad? How do we undo that? How do we repent? And I says, good question. Here's my answer for you. And it was a 40-minute answer. In a nutshell, it's about wise fear of the consequences of the workings of karma. You reap what you sow. You know, what you give will come back tenfold. If you don't believe that, well, guess what? Just keep on thinking about you. And the more you think about you, the more you suffer. Reflect on it. Just that sentence alone. It's very profound. Me, my, and I. My suffering. It's all about me. I can't believe why that happened to me. why my mother did that to me. I would never do that to you, so I don't understand why you would do that to me. But things change when you do nice things for other people. For some reason, magically, you know, good things start happening, your suffering lessens, or you don't suffer as long. You may suffer, but not as long. You have a real human in front of you, not AI. You have a real monk in front of you. You know, and my social media presence very large in society. Very difficult for me to lie. Right here in St. Pete, my whole life has been giving more and taking less to all that is involved in my life. My friends, family, all. Given as much as I could. I was also a CEO, had my own retail company. My employees made 1/3 of what the company made. So after today, if I lie, they can all sue me. Anyone can sue me. Anyone that finds fault in what I'm saying, I'll disrobe and go to Antarctica. You'll never see me again. Hell, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. And Buddha. Under penalty of perjury, under penalty of felony. I've suffered, but not long in my life. It was temporary, you know, as a direct result of giving and the continuation of giving. But those are things I did not see in the totality of what you described to me in the people that is involved. Though I didn't ask about your brother, but it's beyond us. I look at the immediate family members to see the workings of their karma. That's what I was investigating when I asked. Have they done anything nice for charity and stuff like that? The way you live usually determines the way how you die. So did my grandmother. She didn't have a lot of money, so she didn't really give a lot of money out. But giving doesn't mean money. Giving means dedicating body, speech, and mind for the benefit of other people. So my grandmother was a very unique, special case study where she smiled at everybody. She was non-judgmental with humans that she interacted. So when she died, it was quick, fast. Peaceful, I'm not so sure. Maybe a lot of anxiety because it was a heart attack and that she knew that was pending and coming. But it was a swift death. It was just, done. Not the other types of potential deaths that we couldn't anticipate. The manner of deaths, So, so as a monk, I ask these questions to gauge how they die, why they died the way that they died, and how they live the totality of their life playing out so that you can learn from that and you can change your karma. You can change your karma proceeding on forward. We don't get to choose our parents. It's kind of like a lottery. Sometimes it's not a good lottery that we're stuck with these folks, having to endure and tolerate the abuse, the psychological, emotional abuse, the treatment, the poor treatment, but you survived it. You're such a strong woman. The human heart and capacity to put up with so much BS, The second thing about mental health diagnoses in America, for example, like bipolar and borderline personality disorder. Let's talk about bipolar for a second. When you live with somebody that's pissing you off constantly all the time, you become bipolar because you want to be happy. But you can't be happy in this moment when they keep on poking a stick at you at home. But we have a diagnosis for everything in America. So there's a part of me that also rejects such diagnosis because it labels people, puts that stigma there. Whereas I focus on the details of the family life and how they treat each other. And when they don't treat each other right, you will whack out. You will just flip out. That means go crazy. I find that you are a highly sensitive person, like most of us are. And we pay close attention to how people treat us. I find that you are socially intelligent. That's why you're able to find cues and clues about, do they like me? Do they don't like me? Why do they look at me like that? That's social intelligence. You're able to pick up cues and clues. You would make a great FBI agent. you know, because they can't steer you wrong because you can feel it. You know, their energy introduces themselves before they do, and you can pick that up. I think you feel that too in your profession. You know, certain humans, and you're like, ooh, this one's got bad energy. And then certain other individual, you're like, wow, it's like a saint here in my presence, or calm or peace, to replace that. So one should not really, you shouldn't really beat yourself up over the existence of any diagnosis of it. And I actually forgot to explore the medication aspect of it, but maybe after this I can do that. Um, Forgiving ourselves, let's reverse for a second. Compassion and understanding. The application of karma and understanding our parents also suffer because of their previous karma and their parents. And when you analyze their parents, you see it's like, what the hell? It brings us towards compassion and forgiveness. Because who wants to be like that? Who wants to be an a-hole? You know, and who wants to be that mean? They suffer greatly when they're that the anger and the short fuse, which I previously had. I wasn't perfect either. And it's like, now, matter of fact, I did say that to my dad recently too. I'm like, did you think I wanted to be that angry? Did you think I woke up as an adolescent wanting to flip out, act a fool in this house? Do you think I wanted that, right? That's a normal, prudent person. That's what they want, right? Or is it normal, prudent people grow up and wanting to be happy and peaceful, serene, prosperous? So I hope that you will reflect on compassion and understanding. In order to have compassion, you gotta have deep understanding. And hopefully this is an explanation of that as to the why they were like this. And I think you got a good 70% of the why already. And it's somewhere down the line, we should close this chapter soon, because it's been lingering for so long of investigating family history and it doesn't serve us anymore. It doesn't serve us anymore. And I had to come to terms with my family history quickly too, so I can move on and serve the people. I'm 36. I can be your son. You know what I mean? And it's like, I can't dwell on my grandmother's past, and I got so much information. Maybe I have a lot of information than other people, but I had to close the chapter on it quick. Just close that door and says, that's it. I'm happy with what I know so far, and they did what they did, and now they're gone. That's it. I gotta focus back on me. So I hope that you would have compassion for one of your living parents, you know. And there are things that you can do to share the merits. Any good deed that you do here on forward, you can share that with your beloved loved ones, so that their suffering may be eased, may be mitigated. It's called a sharing of the merits. So when you go home, you can Google it. Sharing of the merits in Buddhism. And basically you choose tomorrow to do nice things for people, opening the door for someone, and volunteer at a hospital, charity, whatever.
Just 1 year? Okay.
And with the intention that you have, which is, may all beings be well, may my father be well, may my mother be well, may they rejoice in heaven, may they take favorable rebirth, may they not suffer mentally, may they not suffer physically. That will bring you so much peace in this lifetime. And you know that there is a magical, mysterious working of the law of cause and effect. That's what karma is, law of cause and effect, you know. I find that you've lived long enough to observe how your friends are and how they live their life, and look at either they prosper peacefully or they too suffer greatly, because it's just look back at how they contributed to humanity. And a lack of the existence of service to humanity led them to suffer. I don't have to know them, and I don't have to ask about them. I just need to explain that part, and you apply that part into the history of what you know about your friends and family to see if that's true or not. If in fact they were a service to humanity and they still receive the karmic sentence, then that means their karmic sentence from previous lives were really heavy. Way too heavy to repay in this lifetime and may carry on over the next. So, I mean, again, you are to test this out and not believe me based on blind faith. That's what's the difference between Buddhism, is you're not to take any of this based upon blind faith. And if I was a Buddha, you should never believe me. The Buddha told us, test my teaching, see if it's right. And if it's right, keep going. If it ain't, choose another one. In the Kalama Sutta. So, this also propels you towards enlightenment. I find the explanation of enlightenment comforting, whether it's real or not. I mean, who cares? And who actually knows until you actually die? People always ask, when I die, where do I go? In Buddhism, one of 6 places. You can be reborn in one of 6 hell realm, the demigods, human, animal. I obviously don't want to be a snake. I obviously don't want to be, a porcupine. I don't want to even come back. I don't even want to come back as a human, because there's no guarantee I might come back as Asian, or white, or black, or purple. The desire of not wanting to come back is a beautiful thing. Who wants to come back and pay bills for 80 years? Are you tired of Spectrum? I am. Are you tired of T-Mobile? I am. Again, I don't really care if enlightenment is real. I've tasted it before. I know what it is. That's why I'm still in robes. Again, it's my job as a scientist to test and see if the Buddha is wrong. If he's wrong, I wouldn't be in robes. If it's right, I'm still in robes, preaching and telling you this stuff. I mean, there's plenty of things that I could be doing, like, hitting a strip club, but why am I here, still doing this? An aim towards enlightenment is such a good aim, such a good holy aim. It puts one into a correct path of wanting to live out the holy life, because of that liberation that we want. Right. And the definition of nirvana is the complete extinguishment of greed, anger, and ignorance. And all you gotta do is look back whether in one's life, if we have it. We have excessive desire for money, power, status, fame, acceptance, love. Excessive love we want. To be seen, to be heard, and to be understood. And how we crave that. Excessive anger because we don't get what we want. Or getting something that we don't want, like a flat tire. Damn it. And the existence of ignorance. And the existence of ignorance, which is not understanding suffering. In Buddhism, it's called the Four Noble Truths. We suffer because of ignorance. We don't have an explanation for why we suffer. And what causes that suffering, which is desire. And if you don't want life to suck, stop wanting things. That's it. And the path to liberation is the Noble Eightfold Path. We have the methods. Nobody wants to look at the methods. They're lazy. They rather just pray to God. Call it a day, have a drink. Year after year, 80 years later, still don't have answers to what they're looking for. That's why people are lost. So, I explained to you the workings of karma. Hopefully, you will come closer to the secure in the knowledge of that is why it happens. This is why the universe is the way that it is. This is why humans end up the way that. Why there's rich people, poor people, middle class. Why people suffer more than others. Why people get away with things and don't get away with things. How things ripen come to be. This is because that is, and that is because this is. If this didn't come to be, that couldn't come to be. Law of cause and effect, very easy. Suffering, and then having this aim towards liberation gives meaning and purpose in one's life. And the third thing is, give more, take less. Past couple of years, you said that you were holding down 3 jobs and single mom. I get it. And no one probably told you this. That's why you just didn't know where to turn and how to give or what to give. But now you have received the good news. And you came from a Catholic background. And Jesus says, if you want to follow me, give everything to the poor and then follow me. Nobody does that. Why is that? That Jesus said that, Buddha taught give more, take less, and nobody wants to do it? Because it all went back to them. All about me. And it's not about you. So if anyone ever wanted to alleviate their suffering, focus back on our fellow human beings. Learn what needs to be learned, study what needs to be studied, practice what needs to be practiced, so you can give it back. Find your gift and give it back to the world. And you'll see how enlightened you will become. Or just sit at home and just more subscriptions, more movies, more popcorn, more chocolate, more alcohol, more cigarettes. All for what? Self-indulgent. And then you feel sorry for yourself time and time over again. Time and time, me, my, and I. My life, my son, my daughter, my car, my life, my bills. It's so heavy and sharp in the heart. So yeah, so this is through the informed lens of Buddhism, the explanation of why life sucks. And how our mind works. Very simple. Buddha figured out how the mind worked long before psychologists came along. And monks were the first world psychologists, period. We got it from him 2,567 years ago. When, when Buddha meditated and he figured out, this is why your mind is tripping. Let me tell you how it trips. And we studied 84,000 teachings. 45 years he taught. Christ taught for 3 years. Buddha, 45 years. Christianity, 1 Bible. Buddhism, 45 Bibles, 1 for each year. Everything that you get from other churches and stuff like that, it came from us. Where do you think they come from? Just listen very closely and match it up with the Four Noble Truths. And you'll be like, oh, well, you guys borrow from them. Huh. Hope you're paying royalties to Buddhism. So proceeding on forward is, give you some time to think about what we talked about tonight. If there's any, if there is any clarifications, I can make that after the video. Of course, wait, I don't want to. But you have a lot of things to think about, and you have an alternative explanation here that you can save on your shelf to match it up with everything else. But you can see that based on previous sessions that you've had with other people, no one's ever give you this type of explanation that is direct, that is empirical, that you can observe and see, and a very good, reasonable explanation that it may have been. It could be. The possibility of it. And this is why we Asians are happier than people in the West altogether. You look at Laos, Thailand, Vietnam, they're dirt poor, third world countries. But why are they so happy? You look at the United States, we're the richest country in the world, but the most despair, high suicide rates, more stressful each year, and dumber as the year goes by. It's like, buy this iPhone. It is the newest, most powerful iPhone the world has ever seen, but people are becoming dumber than a box of rocks. So they need a powerful iPhone to get answers that they don't know without doing the work on themselves. But I think that should suffice my part as a monk so far, with all the information that I have received based upon an hour and a half of sitting in there, and you have so much time left to undo what has happened, and you have so much to contribute to the world. You hold a lot of power. You are a representative of a woman's order, of women altogether. you're also a mom, and you know, armed with this knowledge, and slowly you close these chapters in your life and start a new one. You can be in the position of a reverend, either formally or informally, to now liberate other people from the stories that they went through. And the other thing to think about is the interconnectedness of our world, that you're not the only one that's going through this, and there's so many women and men out there, children, going through generational trauma and the same BS, and the addiction, trauma, and abuse, the cycle of suffering, and they don't have this explanation. They literally sit there and just, I cannot believe this. I cannot believe, yeah, it complete hell in their head, and it turns them evil, and then it leads to terrorism. That's why we had the recent attacks on New Year's, you know, the New Orleans thing and the Tesla blowing up on Trump's building. I gave that anti-terrorism talk yesterday, 2.5 hours on all of my social media platforms. So given that, I like to conclude my live video so that people can ask questions and I can clarify. But I think, you know, you all have heard this before. All those who are watching online, you've heard this before, but it's been a while since I've done one-on-one sessions like with people where you hear both sides. But due to privacy, I started to just give the recommendations and not have the other person, you know. But maybe in this upcoming year, I may have actual live sessions where you can hear how the duels of the mind, you know, the wrestling of the minds, to see how it plays out. But hope everyone learned a lot from today and do additional research. I'm available for questioning afterwards for all of you who are interested in Buddhism and its explanation.